A few years ago, a friend of mine stood outside a busy plaza in Rome. A young man tied a friendship bracelet onto her wrist. He chatted and joked the whole time. It felt harmless, even a little sweet. By the time she realized what had happened, her wallet was gone. While she had been focused on the bracelet, his friend had quietly taken it from the outside pocket of her bag. Nothing about that moment looked dangerous. That's exactly the point. Most of what puts travelers over 60 at risk isn't obvious or frightening. It's ordinary and easy to miss. Today, I want to walk through 7 common ways travelers lose money, time, or peace of mind on a trip, and exactly how to stay a step ahead of each one. None of what I'm about to share is meant to make you nervous about traveling. If anything, it should do the opposite. Almost every one of these situations has a simple, calm response once you know it's coming. The people who fall for these aren't careless. They're distracted, tired, or unfamiliar with a place, which describes nearly every traveler at some point on a trip. At our age, most of us have already built good instincts from decades of travel. These 7 patterns just sharpen them. You don't need to memorize anything complicated. You just need to recognize the shape of each pattern once. After that, it rarely catches you off guard again. The first pattern is distraction theft, and it almost always works the same way. Someone approaches with a clipboard asking you to sign a petition, or a small crowd gathers around a street performer, or a stranger strikes up a warm conversation while tying a bracelet onto your wrist. Your attention is on the person in front of you. Meanwhile, a second person goes through a bag or a pocket. This happens most often at crowded landmarks, train platforms, and busy public squares. This pattern also leans on a specific kind of politeness a lot of us were raised with. It's the instinct to stop and be gracious rather than keep walking. That instinct is exactly what it relies on. The fix doesn't require suspicion of everyone you meet. If a stranger approaches with a clipboard, a bracelet, or a story, keep walking. Say a polite, "No thank you," instead of stopping. Keep bags zipped and worn across the front of your body in crowded areas, with a hand resting on it. If a crowd suddenly gathers around you, treat that as your cue to move toward open space. A firm, pleasant "no thank you" costs you nothing socially, even if the person really was harmless. There's no version of this where pausing to be polite serves you better than simply continuing on. The second pattern is someone posing as a police officer or an official. They ask to see your passport or your wallet. This works because most of us were raised to comply with anyone in a position of authority. A fake badge is easy to produce. A traveler who hands over a passport or cash to a stranger claiming authority may not see either one again. Real law enforcement doesn't need to inspect your cash. You're allowed to ask for identification before handing anything over. If someone claiming to be an official approaches you, suggest continuing the conversation in a nearby police station, hotel lobby, or other busy public building. A genuine officer won't object to this. Keep a photo of your passport on your phone, so you're never handing over the only copy you have. I heard about a couple stopped near a busy square by 2 men flashing badges. They claimed there had been a rash of counterfeit bills and asked to inspect the couple's cash. The husband handed over his wallet without thinking twice. His wife, a step behind him, simply said she'd prefer to walk with them to the nearby tourist police office. The 2 men lost interest immediately and walked away. One calm sentence was enough to end the scam before it started. Here's something worth reconsidering. A locked hotel room door isn't actually what protects you. The third pattern happens inside your own room, not on the street. Most hotel room theft happens through simple oversights rather than a break-in. Answering the door for hotel staff without verifying first is one. Leaving valuables in plain sight is another. So is displaying your room key at the pool. These are all small openings. Call the front desk to confirm before opening your door to anyone claiming to work for the hotel. Use the in-room safe for anything you're not carrying with you that day, and keep it out of sight. Don't leave your room key visible where someone could note the room number. None of this requires new equipment, just a habit shift. The worst cases are usually the ones a guest never notices. Someone enters an empty room and takes one item from the bottom of a bag. They leave everything else undisturbed. It often isn't discovered until well after checkout. That's exactly why the safe matters more than the locked door. A locked door keeps out anyone without a key. A safe protects you from the smaller group of people who do have one. The fourth pattern is being quietly overcharged, whether by a taxi, a restaurant, or a currency exchange counter. A driver who never turns on the meter is one version. A bill with items you never ordered is another. So is an exchange rate that looks close enough to normal, but isn't. These rely on a traveler being too polite, too tired, or too unfamiliar with local prices to double check. It's rarely aggressive. It's designed to be easy to miss. Agree on a taxi fare, or confirm the meter is running before the car pulls away. Look over any restaurant bill line by line, the way you would at home. For currency exchange, use a bank or an ATM rather than a street kiosk or hotel counter. Posted rates there are usually closer to fair market value. I learned this one myself flying to see my daughter and grandchildren in England years ago. I exchanged cash at a currency counter right off the plane, jet-lagged and eager to reach baggage claim. The rate on the board looked close enough to what I'd seen online. Turns out it wasn't. Not even close. Now I exchange nothing at the airport. I go to a bank after I get through baggage claim, and I check the exchange rate on my phone before I leave home. That way, I have a real exchange rate to compare against, instead of simply trusting the one I'm offered. The fifth pattern is a compromised ATM or card reader that quietly copies your card information. Skimming devices fit over the real card slot. A hidden camera nearby can capture your PIN as you type. Because the ATM still dispenses your cash normally, there's often no sign anything went wrong. A charge just shows up later that you never made. Use ATMs inside a bank branch or a well-lit staffed location, not a standalone machine on a street corner. Before inserting your card, give the slot a gentle wiggle. A loose or oddly attached piece is worth walking away from. Cover the keypad with your other hand while entering your PIN. That alone blocks most hidden cameras. It's also worth checking your bank balance a little more often while traveling than you might at home. That way, a skimmed card gets caught in days rather than weeks. Most banks let you set up a text alert for any charge over a certain amount. It's a 5-minute setup before you leave, and one less thing to remember once you're on the trip. If this is helping you feel more prepared out there, I'd love for you to subscribe. That's exactly why I started this channel. I want travelers over 60 to have someone in their corner, especially for the parts of a trip nobody warns you about. Have you ever gotten a text that looked just a little too official? The sixth pattern arrives by text or email rather than in person, and it's gotten harder to spot. A message claiming your flight has changed can copy an airline's logo and tone close enough to pass a quick glance. These messages create urgency. A traveler worried about missing a flight is less likely to slow down and check carefully. Fraud researchers note that these scams increasingly target travelers over 60. An official-looking message is more likely to be trusted on site rather than questioned first. Never click a link inside an unexpected travel email or text, even if it looks official. Open the airline or hotel's official app instead, or type the website address in yourself and check your booking directly there. That one simple habit can prevent some very expensive mistakes. The seventh pattern is one you've probably used without a second thought. It's a public phone charging station at an airport, a mall, or a hotel lobby. The FBI and the FCC have both warned about what's sometimes called juice jacking. A compromised public USB port can install software on a device without your knowledge. Security researchers are divided on exactly how common this is in practice. Either way, the fix costs nothing. Carry your own charging cord and a small plug adapter so you can use a standard outlet instead. If a USB port is genuinely your only option, a low-cost data blocker plug helps. It lets power through while blocking any data connection. None of this requires learning any new technology, just packing one small extra item. Most airports now offer both USB ports and standard outlets side by side. None of these 7 things are common enough to expect on every trip. Most travelers go their whole lives without running into any of them. But a pattern you recognize in advance loses almost all of its power. I think there's a version of travel confidence that has nothing to do with how many countries someone has visited. It has everything to do with simply knowing what's coming. The distraction, the false authority, the small oversight, and that moment of urgency. My hope is that these examples help you recognize the warning signs early, so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying your trip. Thank you for listening today. If this made travel feel a little less stressful, or you learned something you didn't know, share it with your friends and family. Safe travels, and I'll see you in the next video.